Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm totally excited about the story that I'm gonna share. It's gonna be a little bit historical and I'm really overwhelmed about anything historical. I really love costume movies, like historical movies. Anyways, so today's story is gonna be like true crime-ish with a little bit of mystery, and there's gonna be a person who's a fraud, and we also gonna visit, like physically together with me, because I went there to film some stuff, one place that is actually linked to this story. So I hope you are as excited as I am about today's video, so press your thumbs up in advance, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and let's just start. Margaret, known as Maid of Norway, was the queen designate of Scotland from 1286 until her death. As she was never inaugurated, her status as a monarch is uncertain and is highly debated by historians. But after her death, there was a lady who also claimed she is Maid of Norway. She is known as one of the most famous impostors from Scandinavian countries, and the story about her is known as the story of false Margaret from Norway. And so Margaret, that's later referred to in history as Maid of Norway, and that's how I'm going to call her in this video. She was a daughter of King Eric II, who was King of Norway, and Margaret of Scotland. The story actually starts a little bit deeper in the history, so I'm gonna start from the beginning, and the beginning starts with Maid of Norway's grandfather from the mother's side, from Margaret of Scotland. See, her father, like grandfather of Maid of Norway, he was King of Scotland and his name was Alexander III. He became King of Scotland in the year 1249 at the age of only 8. And in 1251, when he was 10 years old, he was married to an 11-year-old girl, Margaret of England, who was the daughter of King Henry of England. Yeah. Speaking about love, I don't think they actually knew what real love and relationship is, and I guess nobody was interested because all of this was simply business and politics. Yeah, I guess they left love for the peasants. This is not for the aristocracy, my friends. Nevertheless, during this marriage, Margaret gave birth to 3 children. There was David, Prince of Scotland, Alexander, Prince of Scotland, and the only daughter, Margaret of Scotland. And I don't know how about you guys, but I actually started to think like 3 kids, they got married at the age of 10 and 11. What was the age when they actually started to think about their marriage duties? Like, I don't know, this sounds so crazy. I'm so happy that I'm living in nowadays, actually. But unfortunately, in 1275, Margaret dies and leaves Alexander widowed with all of these 3 children, David, Alexander, and the only daughter, Margaret. And so this only daughter named Margaret later on ends up marrying King Eric II of Norway, and they have a daughter. Can you guess how she named her daughter? Yep, Margaret. I guess they weren't very inventive in terms of names for their children, but yeah. This Margaret is actually the main topic around which the story is evolving, and she's the Maid of Norway. Remember, Maid of Norway's grandfather, the King of Scotland, his name was Alexander, lost all of his children. He lost his son David, his son Alexander, and also Maid of Norway's mother deceased. So basically he was there, he was King of Scotland, and he didn't have anyone to whom he could pass on his throne or who will become the next like royal after his death. So he seriously started to consider what to do, like to whom he will pass his duties. And this is when he figures out that the only person to whom he might pass his throne is his granddaughter, Maid of Norway. And so in the year 1284, Alexander, the King of Scotland, announces that his granddaughter, Maid of Norway, is gonna be his heir presumptive. Even though he announced this, he still tried to make himself a son afterwards. He was looking for some lady or woman who could be his next wife, with whom he could have a son. And I mean, he was widowed, he was healthy, and was still possible. And again, no love involved, only like business, politics related marriage was made with this countess named Yolande de Deux. It happened in 1285 when they got married, but unfortunately this Yolande, she didn't manage to enjoy a lot of her queen status, and I'm gonna tell you why. You see, a year after their marriage in 1286, King of Scotland, Alexander, he does this crazy thing and he dies. Yeah, surprise. So there was this stormy evening when he decided to go somewhere with his horse. Everybody said like, maybe you shouldn't do that because it's quite dangerous, but you know, he's king and nobody can object to him, and I believe he was so stubborn and he actually went out with his horse. And so despite all of these warnings, he took 2 guides and went out on his horse to wherever he was intended to go on that evening. And at one point those guides lost him, so they didn't see where he is going, and afterwards the king was found dead. He had a broken neck and he was just lying there nearby a shore, and when he died he was only like 45 years old. A sad death of a king. And according to his announcement on 1284, this means that the Maid of Norway actually now can become the Queen of Scotland. But wait a minute, remember, the king was married to this lady Yolande, and she like immediately announces that she's actually pregnant, and everyone's so excited, like, because if she gives birth to the king's child, this means that this child will become the next future king who will take the place of the deceased father. Yeah. Some people actually speculated that she wasn't really pregnant, that she just tried to hold on to the throne. Whatever the truth was, it was later announced that she suffered from miscarriage and she lost the baby. And this means that officially Maid of Norway ascended as the Queen of Scotland. It was official in March of the year 1286. And now the main thing. At that time, Maid of Norway was only 3 years old. Yeah. Here we go. Like, Scotland was now led by a 3-year-old girl from Norway. But actually they figured out, like the parliament, they elected a special guardian council who was like taking care of all the Scotland's business, while this little girl was actually growing up, like at least to the age when she starts to understand what is happening around her, which is kind of logic. What do we know about this little girl who now is becoming the Queen of Scotland? Well, my friends, the little girl, Maid of Norway, she was actually living in Norway. She wasn't even there in Scotland. She was living in Bergen, and Bergen, my friends, in the 13th century was actually the capital of Norway, and it was the center of everything. And Bergen is where I am. Ta-da! She was being taken care of her father, King Eric II of Norway, because her mother, as I mentioned before, Margaret of Scotland, she died. And her mother was buried in Christ Church, which was in Bergen. And this is, my friends, where we are actually going right now. Be ready to teleport. We are now shifting to this place, and yeah, we're actually visiting Bergenhus Festning, which is Bergen's like a fortress. It's like actually a complex. There's a place that's truly related to today's story. So if there is some kind of noise, I beg your pardon, because basically here is the street and here you can see is the fortress, and
the thing that I wanted to tell you is that this place also serves also as an example of modern times, because it's also a like concert place. Many superstars from all over the world are coming here to this place, and they are having like big blast concerts, like I don't know, like just dropping some names, like I think this summer Post Malone is coming, and this summer I'm actually coming here for a concert of Imagine Dragons, so huge. And to tell you a secret, actually, last summer I had a photo shoot here. It was really fun, but then I didn't know like the real meaning, the history behind it.
Christ Church on Holmen was the main medieval era cathedral of Bergen, Norway. During Bergen's period as the capital of Norway in the 13th century, the area known as Holmen contained the royal residence in Bergen, as well as Christ Church, also several other churches, the bishop's residence, and a monastery. Holmen and Christ Church formed the political center of the country. The church itself was used for negotiations, and the churchyard was used for hailing of kings and meetings of the realm. The first coronation in Scandinavia was held in Bergen in 1163, and several coronations were held in the church when it was finished. The kings were also married and buried in the church.
So we are approaching the place that I am interested the most in relation to our today's story. So basically that's this field, and this is the place where before they had the Christ Church. Now it's just like a plain Christ Church site because it's been demolished down. The church was used for, oh my god, there's a bird, okay, shut up. And here in this Christ Church, mother of the Maid of Norway, Margaret of Scotland, was buried when she died, but since this church has been demolished, there's like no sign of it. We just know it like historically that it was here. So this is like the place that I wanted to tell you about. They have this little resting place, like parkish something, and they have this nice monument. So, and here by this monument we have the information about who has been crowned in Christ Church. if you're visiting Bergen, definitely come here because it's a really nice place. It's like straight by the Bergen, the historical buildings. Also, the fortress is really beautiful. The buildings, the park, everything is so nice. I suggest you come and see.
And as I mentioned before, they were waiting for the little girl to grow up a little bit so that she can travel actually to Scotland. And I just wonder how they told her that she's gonna become a Queen of Scotland right now. Can you even imagine the situation? Like you're a little girl and somebody just comes up and says, "Hey, Margaret, you know, pack your bags, we're going to Scotland, you're the Queen!" Sorry for this, but it sounds so funny. In 1290, a ship was ordered that was supposed to take Maid of Norway finally to Scotland so that she can start her reign there as a queen. But of course, you cannot let a little girl on a ship like that. She was chaperoned by the Bishop of Bergen and also by Baron Tore Hakonsson. Maid of Norway was supposed to arrive in Scone Palace, which is like the main palace of Scotland, where almost like all the most important kings of Scotland are coronated, and it's a really, really beautiful palace. I haven't been in Scotland, but if I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna definitely check that place out. The trip on the ship wasn't as peaceful as expected. There were some severe storms during the time when they were traveling, and unfortunately, Maid of Norway, the little girl, she got sick. Because of the storms, but I guess mainly because the little girl got sick, they decided to change the route and stop in another place before they continue their trip. The route was changed, and so they land in Orkney, and unfortunately in September 1290, the little girl, Maid of Norway, at the age of 7, she dies. There is not so much information about how Maid of Norway died. Some sources say that she got some complications from seasickness. I guess it could be logic because she was a little girl who hadn't been like traveling so far before, and it was also like too stressful for her. But the second option that I read was that she had some food poisoning, which also could be logic, like living on a ship for a long time, traveling to Scotland from Norway. Whatever the reason is, this little girl who was supposed to become a Queen of Scotland died even before landing on the country's land where she was supposed to become queen, which is so sad. The body of little girl was returned home to Norway to her father, to King Eric II, and he actually identified the body as being his daughter's body, and Maid of Norway was buried in the same place where her mother was buried, which is the Christ Church, the church that we visited before in this video. I bet you are wondering what really happened to the throne of King of Scotland. Yeah, that's a logic question. So anyone who had some kind of blood relation to Alexander III, the deceased King of Scotland, was willing to become the next King of Scotland. So all in all, there were around like 13 candidates, and they were really looking into that. And it's another story that's really about England and Scotland, and it ended up in Scotland's independence wars, but I'm not gonna go into that because we're more concentrating on Norway and the story of Maid of Norway and fake Maid of Norway. What happened is that among all of these candidates, actually in one moment there appeared this lady who was later on in history referred to as fake Maid of Norway. So who was this lady? So it was year 1300. Father of Maid of Norway, King Eric II, dies, and soon after that, a woman lands on the shore of Bergen. She arrives on a ship from Lübeck in Germany, and what she says is that she is actually the Maid of Norway. But she died, you will be asking. Well, my friends, this is where the fake Maid of Norway appears, so hold on. Of course, local Bergen people were quite skeptical about this woman, but she was really trying to convince everyone that she is Maid of Norway, that she didn't actually die. Instead, she was sent on exile to Germany, where she was living all of this time. There she married, and now she decided to come back to her home country, to Norway, together with her husband. So, what happened? Why was she sent to Germany? One of the things that she was telling, as I read in some sources, is that on that ship with Maid of Norway, there was the chaperone Tore Håkonsson, and she said that his wife actually sold her to Germany. Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense, but this is what she was trying to tell everyone. And yeah, there are quite many inconsistencies in her story, but the biggest one is hold on, this is so hilarious. So if we assume that really Maid of Norway survived and she didn't die and she was sent to Germany, then up to the moment, to the year 1300 when this woman appeared, the Maid of Norway could be around 17 years old, but this lady, this fake lady, was in her 40s. So learn your mathematics, please, before you claim you are the queen. And another thing is that she thought maybe that she was acting very smart. So this false Margaret actually picked a really good time to appear because the father is dead, and remember, he identified the Maid of Norway when her body was sent back to home to bury. And now this king was dead, and this means that he cannot deny or confirm the identity of this woman. So it was quite a good time when she chose to appear. But after King Eric II died, his place was taken by King Haakon, his brother, and he was so skeptical about this woman, so skeptical that he said that he doesn't believe her and he's punishing her for trying to pretend as being the Maid of Norway. And to be honest, I do not really understand what was the purpose of this lady. She really believed that it's gonna be so easy just to appear and say that here I am, I'm Maid of Norway, and everyone is gonna believe her and make her the queen or whatever was her intention. So I don't know, but the story ends with the punishment, and this lady was punished together with her husband for being a fraud, for lying and trying to be somebody else that she's not. She was later on burned on stake for treason in Nordnes in Bergen in the year 1301, and her husband, there are some variations. Either he was also burned to death or he was beheaded. I'm not sure, the sources vary, but anyways, both of them were punished to death, which is so sad. I guess if they hadn't made this plan to lie, maybe they would have lived a little bit longer or even a really long life, we don't know. So lying is bad, boys and girls. Don't lie. And here it is, in short, this is the story of Maid of Norway and the fake Maid of Norway. Actually, I wasn't aware about the fact that this granddaughter of Scotland's king might have became the Queen of Scotland. Imagine how the history would have gone if this would have happened. And all of these stories about Maid of Norway and the fake Maid of Norway are a part of Norwegian history, and they have become a really famous folklore here. And it's so interesting. Let me know, what do you think about this story? Did you know about it? I'm especially interested in my Norwegian subscribers. Did you know this story? And that being said, make sure you press those likes, subscribe to my channel, and let me know what kind of stories do you want me to cover more. See you next time!